Then during the month of Ramadan, we have had, unfortunately, not that many, or at least not to my knowledge, embassies didn't have that many iftars. But Muslim embassies, there was one of the US embassy, but not Muslim majority country embassies open to. This is one picture of the interfaith with Christians and Jews, Finnish Church Aid. So they are going to make it this year too. Also the mayor of Helsinki, he had one also, the first one. So obviously he's going to have it, hopefully this year too. This is something I would like to show you actually, what happened last summer. It's in connection with Eid al-Adha actually. Let me show you first this. This was like late July and something like that. And this was Helsinki Pride for sexual LGBT, sexual minorities. And then there were Muslims calling me that, why are these people, why do they put the flags of these people? Sexual, homosexuals, etc., etc. Why not Muslims? And I told them that they are active. Have you ever asked them to put something, So they said no. So that's why they are happy and we are not happy, because we are passive. So what happened actually, I know the mayor, we studied together. I wrote him a letter explaining that we have Eid al-Adha, 21st, and now there is 100,000 Muslims there are in Finland. And this would create equality, we would belong together, etc., etc. And also thank for the iftar. And then I mentioned what is in their website, that this is the most important part of Finland, the municipality, the town hall, president palace, etc., etc. So, and the Finnish flag belongs to this. And what happened actually, that morning, Eid al-Adha, our imam sent me a picture where he saw. They were taking those at that time. There were the Helsinki Juhlaviikot. Flags were there, but in the morning of Eid al-Adha, they were taking them down and they put it like this. And the whole of Eid al-Adha, they had it like this. So let's put it this way: that if the sexual minorities wouldn't have had their flags, we would never have had this. So, and I don't know anybody from the sexual minority that I know of that has ever said any hate speech against Islam or Muslims, because they receive so much hate speech themselves. I've never heard a homosexual say that Islam is bad or Islam is this. No, they don't do it. It's the other ones. That's the way it is. So this and this, these are good signs. We have to work harder to make this permanent. Then we will, let's get back to, okay, now we will get to the inheritance law of Finland. Many Muslims have asked me that there should be some Sharia or whatever law in Finland. And I've never actually understood that first of all, it is not possible. There were laws, there have been laws in other countries, different laws for different people. The most well-known example is in 1930s in Nazi Germany. There were different laws for Jews and different laws for Christians, etc. So I don't believe it's going to take place in Finland. But having said that, so in Finnish it's perintokar, the code of inheritance. The code of inheritance gives a lot of latitude for you to do whatever you want. You're free to do practically anything you want by writing a testament. And let me just show you actually two major exceptions. But let me first explain that this is really brief, because it's quite complicated. Direct descendants means children. So if somebody dies, or when somebody dies, and then they first look, does this person have children? If he or she does have children, then the children will inherit. And they will receive an equal share of the inheritance. And if the child is died, then the grandchild will take place. Prior to this, but it has nothing to do with inheritance, if this person is married and there is no prenuptial agreement, then they will they split the property, but that has nothing to do with inheritance. And if you don't have children, you have a wife or a husband, then the wife or a husband is the closest. If you don't have a wife or a husband, then it's your fathers, mothers. If they are dead, then it's your brothers and sisters. If you don't have them, then it's your grandfathers. If they are dead, their children, meaning your uncles, aunts, etc. Cousins don't inherit by law in Finland. Now we come to the first exception. You cannot, even if you write a testament and a last will, you cannot override this. So if you have a spouse and you die and you're living in an apartment owned by you, he or she, the one who is surviving, has the right. Yes, he or she has the right for the interior of the apartment. But the most important, the other, right of spouse to administer the estate, meaning in lay language, meaning that husband and a wife, even if they have children, husband and a wife, man dies. In these examples, the man dies always first. I don't know why. So the children have the right to, they get the property, of course, they get the title, they get the ownership, but the spouse has the right to live there as long as she or he lives. And also all the belongings inside, it's his or her. This is exception number one, which you cannot override. Even if you write to the testament, or if you have children, they said, no, we want this right away, they cannot take it. This was added to the law in 1980, early 1980s, because there were people throwing out. They wanted the money. They threw out their father or mother. Yeah, they threw them out. So, yeah. The second exception is called lawful share. Lawful share in Finnish is lakiosa. What does lawful share mean? Lawful share means that suppose my property, I have some property, I have to pay, then they have to pay the credits to the bank. After that, 100,000 is left. And suppose I had 3 children. Then they would inherit. Each of them would get 33.3 thousand euros, right? But if I made a testament to anybody for the whole property, they would still have the right for half of it. Which means that if I had 100,000, they would have the right for the 50,000, and it would be divided into 3. So 16.7 they would receive. This is something you cannot override by writing a testament or last will. There are smaller exceptions, but these two are the main ones. So if these are okay with you, then you can do whatever you want according to Islamic or whatever religion law. Then there are other things, such as I can testament, or I cannot testament. I can donate my whole property, for example, to the Finnish Red Cross, right? And there's nothing they can do about my children. But if I donated my whole property to one of my children, then after I die, they could get the half of it back. This kind of thing. So not to, yeah.
Saanko kysyä
Yes. Kysy suomeksi, mä tulkkaan sen. Kuka me?
Minä ja mun mies.
Joo.
Mutta nyt semmoinen tilanne, että sillä Indonesiassa se on minun ja täällä Suomessa on hän. Mitä jos tapahtuu jossain, ne koskevat pidempään samassa eteenpäin?
Asutteko te Suomessa vai?
Joo, asutaan Oulussa.
Molemmat.
Joo. Mitä jos tapahtuu jotain?
Okay, so in her case, that they have property in Indonesia as well as in Finland, and you are living in marriage and you are residing in Finland. Now, the first thing is when somebody dies, the first thing is of course to see the applicable law. Which laws should be? Which laws are applicable? The laws of Finland or the laws of Indonesia?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it used to be a long time ago that it went according to your citizenship, but nowadays I don't know about the agreement between the Republic of Finland and Indonesia, but I would say that it would go according to the laws of domicile, the laws, the country you are residing. So if you are residing in Finland, it would go according to the Finnish law. Right. This is number one. You have to find out which law is the applicable law. Number two, you would also have to find out that if you have a disagreement with somebody, which court to go to. And I would say at the moment, especially in Europe, it's the country of residence. So it would be the Oulu municipal court. And then to find out how to then they would of course have to estimate the values of the houses and then see, and it also depends whether you have aviehtosopimus, prenuptial agreement. So, but more or less, even with the prenuptial agreement, you can, and in the testament, yes, in the testament you can write down that when we die, the applicable law would be the law of Finland. It's something you can determine in a testament. Also, in the prenuptial agreement, you can write down that if we divorce, the law would be the law of Finland. Yeah. So basically, there has been a lot of hassle about this thing that the Islamic law, testaments or inheritance, and it's a problem. I've always asked that where's the problem? Because I don't see not that much of a problem, as long as you remember the two exceptions. You cannot throw the spouse out, and you have to give half of the property to your children. The rest of it you can do whatever you want. What is the most common problem with inheritance according to, have you any experience from relatives or other people coming outside of Finland? What's the main issue? What's the main problem? Why people want Islamic law inheritance? Or is it a matter of tax?
Tax.
Okay, tax you cannot run. There are two things you cannot run in Finland. One is tax, the other one is death. Sorry. Tax, of course, if you have a lot of, then you would form a trust in some maybe offshore jurisdiction, etc. But that's quite costly. Some people have limited companies, so they put the property there, and then when you inherit that, you pay less tax. But otherwise, you cannot. Yeah. The tax is quite a lot. Especially, the tax is divided into two sections. Number one is if it is a close relative like a spouse or a child. This child it's relatively low, but then if it is not that close relative, you have to pay for more than 30% tax. In Sweden, you don't have to pay tax. Yeah. So if you want to avoid tax, you go to Sweden. Yeah. This is what Mr. Walrus, the banker, did. They moved to Sweden, and then he did something, I think. It was in the papers. Now he's in Finland. I don't know whether he's residing in Finland, but the company is. But so it has to be, you have to have a huge financial interest before you start doing things like this. Other questions concerning inheritance or Islam in Finland? I'm actually, yes.
Maybe about inheritance. In Islam, like if somebody passes away, of course the first thing that should be done is like to, if this person has debt, they have to pay for that.
Yes.
And is there any law in Finland that affect that?
Yes, it says like this. If there are credits or debts in the estate, and if you start taking money before paying the debt to the bank or wherever, you will become personally liable for everything. So it's really, really strict that the debt has to be paid first. Yeah. So it's like Islam. There was one study, I don't know whether you read it or not, it was like a year ago, that we know according to Quran and the Hadith and you know how a Muslim should live and how the society nowadays should be, should be constructed, let's put it this way. And I don't know whether you read it or not, but Finland was like number 4 or number 5 most Islamic country in the world. Yeah. Because of the equality, free healthcare, free education, this and that. People are quite equal. You can see the ex-prime minister taking the tram, etc., etc. So Finland is 4th or 5th Islamic country in the world, in that sense.
Is this in a study or?
It's a study. It's a study. You can Google it. Yeah. Yeah. And if you tell this to the Finns, some of them like it, some of them they don't like it. But it's true. It's equal. If you can become anybody if you want. Why? Because the education is free of charge. And if you educate yourself, then the doors are open. I mean, whereas in other countries, there's just no way because of financial matters. Which makes me a bit sad that we have free education, and I know a lot of clever guys, they don't use it. They are lazy, lazy. It's too easy in Finland to write. That's the problem. It should become more difficult. They don't how to say, they don't give any respect for what the former generations have achieved. They even, because according to, was it UNESCO, anyway, it was one of the United Nations, they studies, I believe, it was United Nations studies that Finland is the most happiest country in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And all the Finns are telling me, we are not happy. But they should go live in some other country, outside of Europe, then they would realize. They would realize. But here they are used to it. They haven't seen, well, they travel as tourists. They see 4- or 5-star hotels. That's what all they see. But they should live it somewhere else, Then they would realize how happy we really are. And then they write to the paper that Finland is a bad country. Why? Because I went to the bus and the bus driver didn't smile to me when I said hello. It's bad. Yeah, I read this. It's long time ago. So we'll see what's going to happen with the elections. So with the parliament elections, that will show a lot. But the things that happened in Oulu now, of course, it's tragic, but this has been going on for decades. I know it as a lawyer. I've had cases like this, and how come they haven't done anything before this, as they are trying to do now? They are now trying to do this because of the people under custody. They are outside of Finland, so it's a bit strange, but. Yes, the problem is that there was no control when they took all these asylum seekers. And this is the price the whole of Europe is paying this price, and we especially, because we are Muslim. But luckily enough, they haven't blamed Islam that much as they used to like a couple of years ago. So they are not saying anymore that this is because it is Islam or that because they are Muslims. It's not that, but still I know the situation in Oulu. I'm going to speak there end of this month. There's one conference about this subject, and I met with their Imam Abdul Mannan, and it's not easy for them. And then they say that you should take care of these bad guys. You should have control. But he said that look, they never come to the mosque. Those people never come to the mosque. And how can we take control over this when these are common criminals, nothing else. Nothing else. I heard one story, I don't know whether it's true or not, but in 2016 and 2017, that according to the statistics, in some parts of Iraq, the crime rate went down. Almost no criminality because all of them were in Europe. It's true, obviously, partially at least. Also pity for a lot of course, people who are in need, but for us to help them, to give them shelter. It's this small minority, maybe less than one. We don't know. Maybe it's less than 1%, but they are ruining all this thing. That's the problem. But then they say that they are going to make harder penalties, but it won't help. Because when they are doing these bad things, they don't think how many years they will get. That's for sure. So it's yeah. What I would like to say, I believe that this is important, that you have these gatherings, and it is important that you preserve your religion, as well as your native language, and as well as your cultural habits. This is what we have found out that. And without the religion, we would have lost our language. That's for sure. I mean, that's 100% sure. But without the language, the question is that would it have been possible to preserve the religion? The answer is actually yes. Because if you look at Lithuania or Poland, they are Tatars and they are Muslims. But they don't speak Tatar language anymore. But they are Muslims. They pray everything. The religion is still there, but the language is gone. Now they are trying to make it again. So it's the other way around. Yes, the other way around. No. So, but anyway, I believe it's important that. I know that some people say that it's against what the Prophet ﷺ said, that the mosque should not be divided by ethnicity. It's true if you live in a majority or as a majority. But I believe that if you live in a position of minority as we are doing in Finland, I believe this is the only way. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't communicate with other Muslims, that we, in addition to the interfaith, we would also have intrafaith. So within the religion, as we are discussing today, that's vitally important as well. But the doors of the mosque is always have been open to everybody. So that it's not a matter of that, but I believe that when we are living as a minority, we should have mosques, most of the mosques, as it is nowadays, that they would be divided by ethnicity because of the fact of the language and cultural habit going hand in hand with the religion. This is what I want. So if not, no any questions, then yes. Okay, first here after.
Yeah, maybe some parts you just said it before, like because when we live as a minority, sometimes we make group like based on ethnic, like Indonesia or Somali or Tatar, and then maybe that's answer my wondering why I've been here like 10 years.
Yeah.
But since then until today, I never seen as mosque that everybody can come together like even actually most of them like open, but we don't have, if I say something like do we have like a really big mosque or national mosque or whatever in Helsinki? I said we don't have that one. Yes, I said. But I don't know why. That's why I was wondering.
The situation in the metropolitan area, Helsinki, is different, for example, from the situation in the city of Turku. If you visit Turku, they have a lot of activity between Muslim congregations and from different ethnicities. In Helsinki, that's not the current situation at the moment. You know, the Finnish Islamic Council is not operating as well as it should or it did. So actually, this is what we are also trying to do with the Finnish Muslim Network. You're right. Yeah, the doors for the mosques are open for the salat, but for this, it is not that. It's not that common. It should be more common. About your question about the mosque, which was rejected by the Helsinki city, it was not because they were against Islam. It was not because of the funding. It was because they felt that, this is my opinion, they felt that these people behind this project were not capable of taking care of this project. So obviously there are going to be new ones. This was, I believe it was too large a project, first of all. It was 130 million. Number two, I believe that because they were like for dialogue, there was this swimming hall. We don't know. I mean, we can have swimming halls then later. First, we need a nice mosque, right? Not that 130 million. Maybe 25 million is enough. It can get huge for 25 million. Then we can start thinking, and okay, we can have the halal shops, we can have the administrative wing, we can have the place to teach children, etc. But not more. Then the mosque for the prayer to start. Then the other stuff you can get later. It was too huge, and also, which according to my personal opinion was that there were Christians involved in this project, and this is why I left the project. Actually, I was within the project when it started for a couple of months, but then I left because I felt that this project should be taken care by Muslims only. We don't need any Christians or Jews or whatever. We respect them, but we can take care of our own things. That's how I feel.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about the Finnish government policy about refugees who has a political issue or war issue in their home, and then they want to come to Finland? I mean, is there kind of Finnish government to, okay, I just let you come to my country only like a few numbers?
Okay, we have two kinds of people. We have refugees, which we have quotas for refugees. I don't remember how many this year. But then we have asylum seekers, which is different. So I would say that these political things, they would go to the former mention, that they would be like refugees. And they have, Finland has decided to, I don't remember how many, but yeah. I heard that, I don't remember which country now in Europe, was it Denmark? They were allowed to, not to take the asylum seekers to their country, well, they don't have to keep them in their country during the process, they can take them to northern parts of Africa. But, because of this, they have to take more refugees. So they made a deal. Because they feel that when you take refugees, it is controlled. you know, they go through a process, through a system. This is how it's not my expertise, but this is what I know, let's put it this way. Whereas the other system, which might start again, we never know what's going to happen anywhere, you know, it could happen anywhere. But it could happen, and it went out of control. That was the problem. But politically, I think they are more or less, they should be refugees rather than asylum seekers. And now with the new government, I don't know what's going to happen. Because we don't know which parties are going to. Yes, and after you. Yes.
I wonder about your comment on secular nation. I'm just wondering what is, in your opinion, a better alternative to secular nation to ensure that everybody has right to live according to their own religion?
By secular nation, I mean that first of all, we have freedom of religion in Finland, according to the Constitution of Finland. We have positive freedom of religion, so that you can believe whatever you want to, and we have negative freedom of religion, which means that you don't have to believe in anything if you don't want to. By secular nation, how I feel things are in Finland and the whole of Scandinavia, I mean that they don't respect anymore your religion or anybody's religion. They don't respect your freedom of religion anymore. They feel that it is not as important human right as other human rights. So a lot of people, like 2 decades ago, went to the closet to hide. A lot of people of religion, people of faith, you cannot show. They don't put a cross here anymore that often as they did, because, yeah. So they went into the closet, and all the homosexuals came out of the closet, maybe because of this. This is what I mean by secularity. Secularity means that they don't respect our values. I respect if somebody doesn't believe in anything. I believe that's a religion too. If you don't believe, it's a belief at least, and I respect it. It's his or her business whether he or she believes or what to believe in. It's the human right, and it's the negative freedom of religion. This is what I mean with secularity.
Okay. So, but the nation is the country is that it can stay secular.
Actually,
the idea of secularism is getting a bit wrong nowadays.
Yeah. And also the freedom of religion in Finland is not the same as the freedom of religion in the United States. In the First Amendment, there's the clause of free exercise, as we have in Finland. But then there's the establishment clause. Establishment clause says that no religion has more powers than the other one, or has a special position. Then this is not the case in Finland. It's the secularity, and then we have to remember secularism and anti-religion is not the same. Yeah. You can be even anti-religion, I don't care, I respect, but let me have my position. If you respect my position, I will respect your position. It was you.
Yeah, I think I want to ask the same question. Yeah. What is the general perception of the Finnish communities to the religion itself? Like, I once saw this TV show. It was a quiz, if I'm not mistaken. But then the quizmaster asked like, how many times a day does a Muslim pray? And then the right answer was like 3. And then I have another case when
maybe it was a Shia.
I will assume that. And then we have another case when we asked this religious study in our daughter's school, and then they said that, oh yeah, we have this religion study. The students, they are more than 10, but then they are a bit confused, like which type of Muslims are you? Like, so what is the general perception of the religion itself? Like, is the community here still like respect the religion, or it's just like the definition of secular that you mentioned earlier, and what is the specific perception to the Muslim itself?
A lot of people who respect the religion and who are Christians don't belong anymore to the Evangelical Lutheran Church. So you can be out of the church and still be a good Christian. A lot of people left the church because they feel that the church is not doing well, to put it mildly. The example you mentioned, they try to, the law nowadays says concerning the education of religion in school, in the elementary school, it says that if there are the minimum 3 Muslims or whatever, Orthodox, then they try to change it to 10. But then the Constitutional Law Committee said this is against the freedom of religion. So now it's 3. Now the problem is that the model of Kulosa, they teach different, even if it is Abrahamic, but still they teach different Abrahamic religions in the same classroom, at the same time, with the same people. This is what we have been fighting. It's the same as I taught you now, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Because it's like almost the same, right? Numbers, etc. So, that's what they are doing. And that's the problem. Because if this is not a problem for the Finnish Islamic congregation directly, because we teach, we have our own imam, we have our own teachers, we teach ourselves. It's not a problem directly. But it is an indirect problem. Why? because in the end a lot of people want to stop teaching religion at schools at all. So why it is a problem for us? Because if they don't know about their own religion, then they don't have the literacy of reading other religions. And that becomes an indirect problem to the Finnish Islamic congregation members as well. What the Orthodox, they are really suffering, because they don't have teachers. And then there's this secularism, then there is this anti-religion religion attitude, and then there is this it's financial matters. There was one school, and there was an Orthodox teacher, trained Orthodox teacher, and they threw her out because of money. And because the guy or the gentleman working in the front desk and cleaning the snow or whatever, he was an Orthodox. So they decided to take him to teach. This is true. Yes. Amazing. Yeah. But the government nowadays, they have now realized that this is, because they are now in trouble, serious trouble with this, all what's going on. And they have realized that the only solution is the religion and interfaith religion.
Yes.
And interfaith religion communications. They have now, they know this now, and actually we got this year 65,000 euros funding from the government. We have now received 3 years funding from the government. Prior to this, 0. So they realize that what we are doing might be the solution. And it's not only in Finland. It's as you know, it's also in Indonesia, in the 34 or how many districts. You have 34 districts and 3 others. Well, anyway, in the neighborhood, you have this interfaith organization. Yes.
Slightly off topic, but if a student would like to study Islam here in Finland,
yes,
based on your experience, what would be the most recommended way to do it?
Good question, because now what has happened, first time in history, it started last fall, but now this spring it started officially. You are allowed to study Islam at the University of Helsinki, at the Faculty of Theology, and it's aiming first the candidate program and then the master's program. And there's one lecturer at the moment, is Mulki al-Sharmani, and now they are hiring another one. So this is really, really big news. This is something we have tried like decades. Because if you wanted to study Islam, it would be always somewhere else than in the Faculty of Theology, which really doesn't make any sense. So if you wanted to study Islam, then that's the place. This is what we have also worked. We have this is now final. This is good, and it's The other one is we have imams or so-called imams who need additional training. How to do this? The government doesn't want to send them to any other country. So obviously what's going to happen, we are going to train them in Finland, and then we will invite lecturers, etc. And the third one, as you are teaching your children here, they also would like to, or we are going to do something with the faculty, so that it would not be called like training or whatever. It would be like we would gather once or twice a year to hear from you, and you would hear from other experiences, and maybe to write down something, what we have in common and how to do this. Because obviously in the end, there would not be any religion at schools anymore. So in the end, you will have to take care of teaching the religion to your children. So you would be 100% responsible for this. Or otherwise you will pay a high price here and in Yaovelkia. Yes, first, yes. Yes.
Yes, I have questions about the election. So we're a Muslim minority country. So what's your recommendation for the election? Where should the Muslim community stand?
It's a difficult question because the problem is nowadays that you have candidates. Suppose you have one candidate who is really good for us, but he or she is in the wrong party. Or you have a good party, but then there are some people who are against Islam. Tatars traditionally always voted for the conservative party, the most right party. Why? There was a reason, because they felt that if something went wrong between Finland and Soviet Union, they would protect us the most. But nowadays, if you look at how there are a lot of in social democrats as candidates, some in the Greens and some in the West Party, not that many in conservatives. So it has changed. But which party to vote, it's really difficult. I don't know myself. Yes.
Yeah, I'm interested about that thing, that bill of animal slaughter
Yes,
that you were
yes.
talking about, because it could really affect us in a real way, in a concrete way, that we would not be able to, the price of halal meat in Finland would rise and not. How likely do you think that the bill will be passed, and is there any way us as a community could help somehow to make sure that we should help this bill in any way?
Okay, the last one is you can always talk to your ambassador. If she could write a letter or something to the Constitutional Law Committee. The chances, I wouldn't know. First of all, are they going to pass this law before the election? And it's highly dubious, according to my personal feelings, since this law of animal well-being is connected with this social Medicare, as you know, SOTE, and the regional district, which is a huge package and a huge mess, one would say. And the Constitutional Law Committee cannot, since the animal welfare law is linked to this big package, they cannot do anything prior to they have first solved the problems with the large package, which means that it's 50-50 whether they have the time to do it. But it wouldn't matter because it would then come again after that. What will happen after that, I don't know, but I would say our chances are 50-50. The problem is that we have been so passive in the past, and so it's in Sweden it's already, in Denmark it's already there, So it's a question of stunning and cutting the throat. According to the current law, you have to cut first. Sorry, you have to stun first and then cut. But there's exception for religious ritual slaughter. What they're going to do now is they're going to take this section out. So which would mean that it would not be simultaneous anymore. It would be first stunning and then this. So the animal would not be present anymore, which is definitely against our religion, according to any mazhab. And definitely according to Shahita of the Jews. The Jews are really active. I went to see actually you see, I had to go all the way to Brussels to get help because here the Muslim community is passive. I work with the Jews, but in Brussels there's this European Jewish Congress. I met with the directors of the European Jewish Congress and the Security and Crisis Control. And they are helping us a lot. And they are always there. They are really active and they are fighting hard and they have done a lot of good things already. There are people in the UK who have been fighting for us, putting some pressure from the UK to the Finnish parliament, which is really amazing. Yes.
Assalamualaikum again. I work for a non-profit organization, and our project is actually about immigration, employment for immigrants. And then I work a lot with immigrants, especially refugees. And then when we're talking about refugees, then there's going to be a lot from the Somalis. And then the problem with this community is that a lot of them, they have to believe that their women are not supposed to go out of the house, are not supposed to go to war. And of course, it kind of creates the problem then because they kind of live based on this allowance from SCARA. And of course, then there is this sentiment from the Finnish citizen because then it's not right that they are using the tax money, but they don't want to go to war. So, what is your opinion as the head of the Islamic situation to reach out to this community? And I kind of have to say that they are very marginal, especially the women. And of course, they have their own Islamic community. They don't really integrate to the society, the Finnish society, or to other societies outside their Somali community. So this is about faith, so it's kind of something sensitive. Even though I'm Muslim, I don't really share the same faith as they do. But it's sensitive. You can't. You can't. It's not right for you to say that what you believe is not right. But
first of all, it's hard for me to say that or tell them that this is not a matter of faith. This is a matter of culture. I believe it is a matter of culture. But the thing is but the thing is that I don't have the means to solve this problem. The only way to solve this would be that the government would take this more seriously, and that the government would see that if these people are there and they don't get employed, they should be more active to make them get employed. That's the only way to get them out of the house, to take the benefits. But otherwise, there's no way I can, I cannot force them. Or you cannot force them.
I cannot force them, but our funding is actually from the government, so we are like the extension of the government also. We're trying to talk to them, but then when we reach these topics and then they say, or usually the husband will say, but no, my wife should not be working. Then kind of stop the discussion.
That's the end of the discussion.
So that's the end of the discussion. Even though probably people in my organization, they kind of expect me to reach out to them because I'm also Muslim. But then I still have no way how to stop this problem or how to speak to them about this.
I think the only solution is to with the aid of the government somehow start a program for them. There has been some programs. At the moment, the programs are more or less like, as you've heard, this against radical extremism, etc. So they are quite busy with this stuff at the moment. So it's a matter of prioritizing things. It's also the matter of, with the similar matter in the Finnish Muslim network, we have to prioritize things. So this would be, it's difficult because it is a domestic problem. But the only thing, what I would do is that I would, with the benefits, take the benefits away to make them work, to make them go out. How to do it? Because you have to treat the whole nation equally.
Yeah.
And if you only make these, more strict rules, it's not possible according to the constitution.
I don't have the power to change this law, but
yes, and if you make this that everybody has to work and no benefits, then the socialists will come and get you. It's complicated.
I agree. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yes, one.
Okay. Yeah. So I haven't been here for a long time, but I've been very curious.
Could you close the door, please? I cannot hear. Getting old.
Yeah, I've been just curious about this. That coincidentally last night I watched some, like I see something in the U.S. that someone get fired because he was practicing praying in the U.S. but it's not a Muslim thing, and then it made me think about how about here in Finland. Like I've been thinking about how Finnish see Muslim people. What is their opinion about us? And then because I think most people think Muslim is like Arab, and is it how Finnish also see that? And then the other thing, is it technically legal to pray in public, or if somebody will get offended with that?
No, it's legal. It's freedom of religion. But this is, you actually got to the point now that many Finns and many people in the world think that Islam and Arab is the same. And if you look now, according to the statistics, if you take Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, it's 40% of Muslims. And then comes the first Arab country, Muslim, Egypt. So the problem is, and as the Prophet ﷺ said in his farewell khutbah, that no Arab is above other Muslims and the other way around. And this is the problem, that what they say now, what's going on in the Arab world is what they think about Islam. And they don't see, for example, what's going on in places or countries like Indonesia. They don't bring that. That is also the largest Muslim population in the world. Or they don't know a thing about Muhammadiyah. This conference I mentioned you, I asked because I partially knew it. Because Finns and the Europeans, when they hear the word Salafism, they think this is terrorism, right? And then I asked about, it was one of the heads that explained us Muhammadiyah, and then she said that, she told that, yes, we have some, we take something out from Salafists. And everybody was like, why this is, and then it is a modernist. Even I am a Salafist in one sense. For example, what would be a good example? Okay, rights of women. According to the Prophet, and in his days, women were more or less equal to men, right? Then after the Prophet ﷺ, there came other people and said, put the women away, right? So why should I respect them instead of respecting what the Prophet said, ﷺ? In that sense, I'm Salafist, right? But I'm not a terrorist. You see, they are mixing. They don't care if you do your job well. They don't care how many times you pray at work. But because I know bus drivers, they do prayer during the with the time, with the breaks, during their breaks. So really they what one should try to do is that they would not treat you as a Muslim, that they would treat you as an individual. And how to achieve this is relatively easy. It's by working hard, being harder worker than a Finn, working more, learning the language. My Finnish is better than the Finnish of 90% of Finns, because I have to be better than they are, because otherwise they would not recognize me. You have to be better. And after that they respect you, and then they might even say that, look, it's prayer time, go pray now. Or if they see you eat during Ramadan, they will stop eating.
Any more questions? You don't have, I will ask final question.
Okay.
Ask.
So if you don't mind to explain to us about the pension system in Finland,
Sorry, what?
the retirement system
Yes.
in Finland.
What about it?
Well, because in what age somebody can apply for the pension?
Okay, there's the main pension, of course, is when you reach a certain age. It depends, but usually it's like between 61, 64, 65, something like between. You would get the minimum pension, and then you would get the pension which you sort of earn. So how many years you have worked, and what has your salary been during it. It's changing all the time. It used to be like it was the average. It was the last 5 years they took the best and worst, and then the average of 3. But that has changed. I believe that it's my personal opinion that the people who were born like in the 80s and 90s will not get that much pension, because mathematically it's not possible that 10% working, 10% children and 80% pension. It's not possible. And this is something the politicians are not willing to face. And this is why we need more people, since, as you know, I don't know whether you know or not, but this is a really catastrophe how many children were born last year in Finland. And if you ask why, it's because if you have a child, then it means that the other one is not working for a couple of years quite oftentimes. It's financially, it's quite difficult. With the average salary of 3,000, then you deduct the tax, etc., pay the rent or whatever mortgage you have. It's not easy. So not enough babies in Finland at the moment, except for Muslims. But it won't solve our problem. But this is it started in 1963, this työeläke system. And it has changed and it's going to change. Even in Russia they changed it now. They had to, because they knew that mathematically this is not possible anymore. Yeah. But they are not willing to face the problems now, since they have elections every 4 years. Or actually every second year, because of the municipal and this and all the time election. They cannot think. They don't have perspective. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I will give one comment and one question, the last question, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
Because moderators have chance to ask. Right, so I think my first comment, or maybe suggestion, it will be good if you make this one as a book, as an official book, the history of Finland, because we could see very less resources there in internet of this history of Finland, Muslim in Finland. So other people would understand also how history is shaped. And my question is, can you share us the experience of the Tatar Muslim community, how to preserve the religion after 4 generations? So it has been almost 100 years or maybe more, right? The Muslim in Finland, and mostly it was brought by Muslim community.
Yes.
And maybe you can even share your personal experience. For example, what did your grandfather teach you or something?
Okay, I can tell you, I won't tell you what to do, but I will tell you what not to do. Because I've noticed this. One Muslim came to me and he has children. And I asked, what about, how are they okay? And they said, yes, but there's a problem. I said, what's the problem? It's about 5-time prayer. What about it? Well, they pray it, but they don't do it on time. And this is something, you cannot force anybody that you should do it 5 times or that you should do it. If he or she doesn't do it willingly, then there's no way. You have to show it by your own example. And you cannot, if you want that your children wear a scarf or whatever, you cannot push them, because you can push it maybe till she's 16, and after that she will take it away if you push it. So don't push them. Let them do things because they are proud of doing it, and show it with your own example. Same thing is with fasting. You cannot make, well, you can of course make them fast, but it will not, they would then stop fasting when they are like 16, 18 or 20. You have to show it by your own example, and you have to show it like as if it were not a religious duty, but it is. We were fasting, of course, because we are Muslims, but we felt when we were young we were doing it because we are Tatars. Tatars fast. You cannot be Tatar if you're not Muslim. Similar thing goes with, I think, with you people, so that your children should fast because they are Muslims, but because because they are Indonesian, right? So that this thing would, because it strengthens. Because if you have a table with only one leg, and that is the religion, and if somebody cuts it off, but if you have this, you have the cultural habits, you have the language, then if one of the legs is not that, if one of the legs is a bit weaker than the other ones, then the other ones will support it. So that's how I see. So not making them do things because you tell them to do it, rather than because they want to do it. This is the only way, I believe. Yeah. This is, for example, during the summertime in the 1980s when we had we still did, long days for fasting. The congregation made the resolution that you can fast either according to the Helsinki time, or according to Mecca time, or Medina, or Istanbul. And a lot of people said this is against Quran. Those days, this is 40 years ago. The idea was that if we give the children or the younger people to fast according to a shorter time, they will not stop fasting even in the winter time in Finland when it is short. But if we tell them, you fast according to the Helsinki or Oulu time, or you go to hell, they will stop fasting. And even when it comes short days in Helsinki, you will not learn the habit again. This is an example. I remember when we had a conference in Helsinki 2012, and there were people saying that this is against Islam, that this time according to time of Mecca, the most conservative, I'm not going to tell who, he said that this is against Islam. That this is. I told myself actually that let's wait a couple of years and you will see. And what happened last Ramadan, I asked him how is it going. He said it's okay, we are doing it according to Mecca. I said according to Mecca it's against the Quran. He said, no, there's this and that and explanation. So things change. There have been Tatars residing in Oulu in the 1930s. And there have been Tatars residing in Oulu when it was really long time to fast in June. And they did it according to the local, as they some partially do nowadays still, especially the Somali. There was one incident, actually, there was one ship from Turkey. They were bringing something. And it was during the long Ramadan, long fasting, and they didn't speak any Finnish or English, the crew. And they were, they were really suffering. And the doctor came there and they wouldn't know what's going on, why they are so. And then they invited my mother's side's grandmother's brother as an interpreter, because they were from Turkey, same language. And he said that these people are fasting, that's why they are so weak. And they saw that because the sun almost didn't set, but they had to fast. So yeah, they took them to the hospital, and he explained, look, we do it like this and this, so we have had this for decades. So this is how we feel about it. But encouraging, especially small children, they can fast first like 5 hours or so, and then you make a nice dinner for them. You're a good boy. But no, now you don't eat, or you go to hell. Yeah, no. It will work 5 years, but after that. You have to be more active in your society. You have to. Actually, I have been keeping telling you about three things: the religion, native language, cultural habits. Number 4 also is, which I don't mention that often, is financial freedom. So you have to be financially free as well. You have to, if you are going to build your own mosque, even a small one, you have to get the funding. Okay, maybe partially from Indonesia, of course, but you have to collect the money from your own people. Yeah. You have to get your people involved within your community, your own community, as well as with the civic involvement. These are vital. If you do this, then I see no problem. Really, I don't see any problem.
Okay, I think it's enough for now because we cannot move those speakers. And now I think it is time. Oh, by the way, here I forgot. There is a bit of souvenir from us to Mr. Habib Ali, and I think it will be given by our Rio Wibowo section, our Indonesian Muslim Association head, Mustafa Kamal.
So this is like something from us.
Thank you so much. Let's go there.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And final event is to take picture together. Yes. Our ritual. So maybe the first step again to establish the network between Indonesian Muslim community and other Muslim community. Because we are so much nature in surviving in Vietnam. Semuanya. So we can tampil picture together. Foto.
Ayo foto ibu-ibu. Semuanya foto-foto. Siapa yang mau foto? Siapa yang mau foto? Sini mana?
Gantian.
Pakai semuanya. Udah semuanya.
Belum kan nggak akan kelihatan. Oh gitu. Kelihatan ah. Aku kelihatan nggak?
Dapat nggak?
Satu. Ini kalau ini kelihatan.
Sebelah sini.
Sama tembok.
Boleh sekarang.
Satu. Ayo.
Di sini ada pinggangnya.
Kelihatan ya. Satu, dua, cheers. One, 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi.
Gantian dong mas ini.
Ini gimana caranya? 1, 2, 3.
Sekarang Mas Rio sini.
Mas Rio aja belum.
Ya, Mas Kamal gantian. Mas Kamalnya nggak bergerak.
Ih, Mas Kamal.
Nggak di-share ya. Mas Kamal mau tampil. Siap.
Masuk nggak?
Masuk semua masuk. 1, 2, 3. Lagi. 1, 2, 3. One more. Satu, dua, tiga. Satu, dua, tiga. Ya, terima kasih.
Sekarang mau makan bakso lagi masih ada.
Okay, just we'd like to thank our speaker again. And just a few announcements that pengajian bulan depan 2 Maret. Jadi diinform lagi. Maghrib 4:38 kalau masih mau sholat di sini masih bisa. Dan ya, terima kasih banyak ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam.
Ya, thank you banyak.